Zac is a damned difficult champion to make skins for, because anything you put on his body needs to be able to stretch and morph along with the rest of him. So he can be liquid metal, interdimensional symbiote, goop, nacho cheese, these things all work. But the SKTT1 skin looks like ass in part because they tried to put gold armor pieces on him, and that just does not play with his animation. Thus, Space Groove Zac, who is a living mass of groove given form. Now, I would have expected them to just fully make him a blob of lava lamp liquid, and there are elements of that in his design, with some mildly animated bubble textures on his arms that don't show up in the model viewer here, and you would be hard-pressed to kind of really notice them in-game with how small they are and how much Zac tends to morph. Instead of that, though, they've done something a little bit more ambitious. Zac is wearing, or rather has embedded into his body, and we'll get back to that, a sort of vest with what looks like speaker cones on it, and his hands and feet are keyboard keys, while both his eyes and his whole head are shaped like musical notes. As theming, this is pretty fucking banger, actually, and I especially enjoy how the texture artists have managed to shape his usually rather monstrous scowling face into a big, cheerful, friendly grin, and I do think the high contrast blue against white and green is a suitably groovy and bright color scheme for the skin line. I also like that he is translucent. Again, it doesn't really show in the model viewer, but that translucency gives him a lightness and airiness that, along with a smile, counteracts his usually somewhat aggressive, predatory hunched stance and aggressive animation. Shoutouts to the effects animators here as well, by the way, who've managed to turn his explosive burst W into a cheerful pop of musical energy. Even his ult feels more cheerful and fun and playful in its visual presentation. On the other hand, I mean, he is just showing his age. Zac is from 2013, and while his design has aged uniquely well, comparing the model here to the splash art, there is just a certain chunkiness that remains and a certain smoothness that it just can't achieve no matter how hard the texture artists work at it. This is why his speaker cone jacket is embedded in his body rather than being this liquid flowing second layer swirling and flapping with his dance movements like it's clearly supposed to be. And speaking of what things are supposed to be, going by his splash, the speaker cones in his jacket are actually supposed to be eyes, which is a really cool alien design detail that just gets completely lost when it has to be converted into a texture on his ancient model. Ultimately, I think this is a pretty good design, straining rather tragically against the limits of what a very old champion can actually carry off.